This is the Next Bite of Life podcast, the place to be to hear personal stories from expats, digital nomads, and everybody else taking their next bite of life. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Next Bite of Life podcast. My guest today is Caroline Connor, and she is a wine connoisseur. She is um, the proprietor of a wine tasting company, and she's here to tell us all about wine and discuss her life so far. Welcome to the show, Caroline.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
So we have, I have a lot of friends that just love wine. So when I saw your bio, I was all like, oh, I got to talk to this lady. I got to talk to her about wine because what's not to love, right?
Everybody loves wine, right?
Yes.
The
Now
greatest.
tell us, where are you from originally?
I am from California. I'm from Menlo Park, the Bay Area.
How long have you been, and where are you now?
So now I live in Lyon in France. It's a second city in France, central France, culinary capital of France. Wonderful, wonderful place right in between Burgundy and the Rhone, so major wine country.
Oh, nice. Now, let us up. Tell us the journey from Cali. I mean, how did you end up from Cali and then, in Lyon? How did it
So
happen?
it was a windy road. I grew up in Menlo Park with my mom and my stepdad, but my dad always lived in London. So even though he's American, but he's always been in London. And so we lived when my parents were still together when I was little. We lived in London for 1 year and then we lived in France for 1 year. And then they got divorced and my mom, we went back to America. I was really young. And so I grew up in California, but when I was 16, I moved in with my dad in London just because I was not happy in, I was a teenager, right?
Of course. Who
So
is,
I
right?
know, right? I was so miserable. And I moved to London and I finished high school there. I went to the American school in London and I ended up going to college at Oxford. So that's where I got into wine.
Oh,
I did
wow.
competitive blind wine tasting at Oxford, which is like the dorkiest thing you can do. But I got a really unique education in wine that was very intense. So
Yeah.
that wasn't like what I studied archaeology, so super obscure, but that was my like side thing when I was there. And then stayed in London. I worked in the wine business. I did more studies in wine with the Wine and Spirits Education Trust and got my diploma doing that in that. And then I was in France for 1 year where I kind of bummed around. I did a wine harvest, and then I was a chef in the Alps at a ski resort, and then I was a
Oh,
waitress
my
in Paris.
goodness.
Yeah, did kind of three seasonal jobs that year, and that was 2013. I moved back to America. I went back to San Francisco for 4 years. And I
Okay.
just didn't like it. It didn't fit with me. I didn't find my people there.
Yeah.
I think that being an expat for so long, especially when I was pretty young,
Yes.
really formed me. So I moved to France in 2017 after Trump got elected. I was kind of just like, oh my god, screw this.
Yeah.
Uh, Seriously. And I came to France because I already spoke some French. I mean, I have these kind of connections to France, and I was kind of over London, just because it's so big and overwhelming, and
Oh
I
my
was in
God. I
Paris.
can't believe you said that. It's my favorite city. It's my favorite city in the world.
No, I love London. I love it. No. I mean, it's the best city in the world. Like, I love London. All my friends are in London. London is my home in a really deep way. Like, I lived there for 10 years almost.
Yeah.
Like, I love London, but it is enormous. It's hard to deal with.
Yes.
It's just really big and it rains all the time. I mean, like, I just didn't and I'd been there, done that in the wine trade there, and I just didn't really want to deal with that. So I came to Paris. My dad actually lives in Paris now. So I'm like 30 years old. I'm on my dad's couch, feeling like a loser, like I had no idea what to do with my life. And I came to Lyon for 2 weeks to study French
Mm.
intensively. Like, I did a homestay program and I studied French intensively to school here, and I just loved it. And I'd never considered living in a smaller city because I had lived in San Francisco and London and Paris. It never occurred to me that I would like somewhere that wasn't huge. But oh my gosh, now I'm like, I couldn't go back. I
Yeah.
could never live somewhere enormous again. I love it here. I'm super happy here, and I started my business doing wine tastings for tourists. So I have a little solo business, and that was super fun. I loved it. I hope it comes back one day, but it's pretty much in a coma at this point because of we don't have any tourists. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Of course, just like everything. I think eventually it will all come back. Now, this leads me, before I ask my question about, your business and the blog. The blog is called Wine Dine Caroline. I love it. Wine Dine Caroline.
Yes. So I'm Wine Dine Caroline. I'm Wine Dine Caroline on everything. So Instagram, that was the original Wine Dine Caroline was my Instagram. I just like I don't know, I came up with that
That's
a million years ago when I made my Insta. And then it's mostly a YouTube channel, but I do I'm trying to like
yes.
blog from the YouTube. So I'm doing wine videos that are very short and they're very practical. It's
Yeah.
like tips and things that people ask me a lot.
And
I'm trying to make wine easy. But Wine Dine Caroline is also going to be where my online course lives. So I'm creating an online wine course right now.
That's fantastic. I read that
It's
on your
exciting.
blog and I go, yeah, I think that's a wonderful addition to what you do. Now, when you say wine tasting for tourists, so
Yeah.
basically, what do they need to do?
Oh, it was so great. So, like, basically, I live in this beautiful neighborhood. I have a beautiful apartment that is an old 200-year-old silk factory. So like the silk
Oh,
workers are a big part of
nice.
Lyon's history, and my neighborhood is all about that. Like this is where the silk workers were, and so it's a really typical kind of like loft apartment. It's like you can see my bed. Like I literally have like an open. It's one room. It's one big room. And so basically the tourists come to my apartment and it's like they step into my French fantasy. And it really is a like American in France fantasy apartment. It's pretty funny. Like I do it on purpose,
Oh,
but
that's great.
I love my apartment. And then the table's all set. There's 6 wines, 3 whites and 3 reds. There's a big cheese board with beautiful cheese and meat. And then but we start around my couch and we have some bubbles and I introduce myself. Everyone introduces themselves. Small groups. It was like
Hmm.
8 maximum.
Okay.
But super fun. People from different parts of the world, and they all become friends across my table too, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have some local bubbles, and then we go to the table, and I basically guide you through how to taste wine tasting technique,
Okay.
and using our local wines, and I talk about the regions that surround Lyon. Like we are really in between multiple wine regions, so that's what made my tastings different from the other wine stuff available to tourists in Lyon. Is the other stuff is all tours to the vineyards, which are awesome. It's
Yeah.
awesome to go visit vineyards, but my thing, you would taste all the different wines from the different regions. So you can't get in a car and go from Burgundy to the Rhone in one day like that.
Exactly.
That's too much, but with me, it's 2 hours and you do
Yeah.
all of it, and you
Yeah.
learn a lot about the history of the city too, and I'm a nerd, so
Yeah.
I'm just like, spouting facts, but I'm good at, making it accessible, I think, so people did learn a lot about what they like, learn about what to describe, how to describe the wine, and they're able to ask questions and have
Yeah.
access to someone that's not, that I'm not gonna judge them, and, like, it always took people a minute to
Exactly.
open up.
I am so glad you said that about
Yeah.
judging because there's nothing worse like when
Ugh,
you encounter wine snobs and they're just like, ew, you don't know this or they expect you to be like the
it's
person
so
who knows
weird.
about wine and they make you feel bad about not knowing
It's
about
so weird. I don't know why we do this either. Like, it's so dumb because wine is something that you have to learn about. Like, it does require being told, being
yeah.
taught because
There's
it's
so
not,
many varieties, right?
it's confusing. It's
Yeah.
confusing. I mean, it's not. It's not like once you start learning about it, it's super not that confusing. Like there's a barrier that we have put in place, the wine people, by making it seem scary. And it's really easy once you understand like a few basic things, but you
Hmm.
have to be taught. And so it's like
Yes,
why are we making people feel bad about not knowing something that they haven't been taught? Like, and also not everybody cares. I think that's another thing.
exactly.
Like if you don't care about wine, then who who cares? Like, it's not a big
Yeah.
deal. Like, you don't have to care.
I like the fact that it's a small group. One of my favorite things to do when we travel is do small group tours, whether it's
Yeah,
to learn how to make, Italian dishes or go to a museum. So I would love to do something like that where it's so intimate,
it's super
especially in the house.
intimate. And yeah, it's in my apartment, right?
Can you imagine, like, the
Uh,
memories that you take back with you? It's
well,
great.
people love it, and it's really validating because my career has been really up and down, and to do something now that makes people really happy and is like a high, like I get, if you look on my TripAdvisor reviews for Lyon wine tastings, which is my business doing that, I have 5 stars like across the board because it's a blast.
Yeah.
Everybody loves it, and also working in tourism is awesome because you're dealing with people that are happy.
Yes.
They want to be here. They want to be here. I've been fighting my entire career to be taken seriously because I'm a girl and I'm
Yeah.
relatively young. I'm 32 now.
Yeah.
But like, these people are paying me for my
Yeah.
knowledge. And I'm not
Exactly.
and I don't have to like justify it. And that's awesome.
Well, for sure, I would rather take a wine class with somebody like you that's a 70-year-old snot.
I know, right?
So I think that is definitely the way to go. And you sound, even just from talking to you, you sound like somebody who's really, nice, easygoing, somebody you wouldn't mind spending time with.
Oh no,
So
I'm
to
super
go to
fun.
2 hours, yeah, to go to for 2 hours to your house, have some cheese or say, I
Yeah.
had been hoping that you were going to tell me that you went to France for l'amour, you know.
No. No, I
But
moved here by myself. I did meet a wonderful man. So I do have a hot French boyfriend who's all over
ooh,
my Instagram too. He's so gorgeous.
oh, that's great.
But I met him on an app, like at
Hey,
least a year after I got here. So
as long as it works,
yeah.
whichever way. But that's wonderful because
But it's
it
funny
makes
because he
for a
doesn't care about
rounded.
wine.
No,
No,
don't tell me
he
beer.
does- he loves beer. He is not interested in wine at all, but he does love cheese. The man loves cheese.
Otherwise, he would have to give his French citizenship up if he didn't
I
love
know,
cheese,
right?
right? Now,
Exactly.
you said you have the wine tasting of the wines from the different regions. Do you ever
hmm
do like international? I mean, because you figure maybe the people coming are from international destinations. Do you now give them like something to take away with them? Not wine. I mean knowledge, like what they should look for in their country, or do you ever recommend any wine that's not French?
Oh, for sure. I mean, the thing is, we do the tasting. I go through all the wines. I'm teaching you how to taste wine. So
Okay.
that is applicable across the board.
Yeah.
But then, that ends after, like, that's over after about an hour. We've gone through the wines. I've told you about it. Then we're just talking.
Okay.
So, yeah, for sure. We talk about the markets in different countries, where you are. People talk about what they like, what their experiences are. I mean, it's very chill.
Yeah.
If you have a question, I'll answer it, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Now, I know this might be a delicate subject for you, but you grew up loving wine, apparently, right? You loved it so much
Well,
that you couldn't get you couldn't get enough of it, and so you had a
yeah.
problem with alcohol.
Well, so everyone in the wine industry has a problem with alcohol. I mean, like when you're in the alcohol industry, we're all alcoholics. Like it is rough. Everybody's drunk all the time and
Wow.
you get used to it and it's free and it's everywhere. I mean, it's a really problematic industry. So I've definitely struggled with my alcohol intake at, it was I had a bad couple of years like
Hmm.
leading up to moving back to Europe. It was a
Okay.
bad couple of years.
Okay.
And it's hard because it's like I love wine for reasons that aren't about being drunk. Like I love wine because it's dorky
Yeah.
and because because I love food.
Yeah.
Like, and it's also something, I've devoted a significant, I've devoted my entire adult life to it. So it's like, I don't really want to start over and do something else. I don't even know what I would do.
But you're having
And
fun, you're having fun
no, I
doing
mean,
it.
yeah, I've got it under control now. Like I think I just was really unhappy too. So when I was really unhappy at the end of my 20s, I'm in California where I just didn't belong there
Hmm.
and I was drinking a lot and I
Yeah.
was I was struggling a lot with alcohol, but being happier has made it a lot easier to not be a drunk person. And I got
Yeah.
away with it though too. I mean, I think a lot of people talk about alcoholism in terms that aren't very helpful or very accurate. Like I'm it's like I never woke up and drank a bottle of vodka. Like that
Yeah.
wasn't me. I was just drunk every day
Yeah.
by evening, like
Yeah.
it wasn't and it wasn't like I was doing dangerous, stupid stuff either. It was just slowly ruining my life,
Yeah. Yeah.
And eh,
When you think about like alcohol, for instance, between what's going on in America and here, like in Spain, for instance, and it's the same thing in France. When they consider you an alcoholic there, yeah, you're drunk and you go to AA and you do that. My husband is Italian. He always says to him, it looks like Americans almost feel like they have to label everything. Whereby
yeah,
here, you're going out and in the morning and we're cycling from back from the gym like at 10,
yeah.
and we see these people, old men, young men, they're sitting outside having a drink,
I
not just
know.
beer. They like, hard
Yeah.
on liquor. And it's like they have it before, during the break from work, in the evening as to get out. Like in America, that would be classified as an
I
alcoholic,
know.
and
It's funny.
you would be forced to go to like AA or something,
I
And
love
he's
those
like,
little old men. They're so
yeah,
funny. Yeah.
and I just don't get it. Like a friend of mine was saying, thank God it was Friday. She had a picture of her desk at work, and there was a bowl of beer. Like, and
Yeah.
I said, see the difference. I mean, look at this. This would never, you would have lost your job already
Right.
in America. So it's just weird the perception of what that is. But
Well,
every single time my husband still says it, it's like I just don't get why you Americans always
I mean,
call
America's
every.
extreme, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's true.
look, I didn't do AA. AA helps a lot of people. That is true, right? But
Mhm.
it's also not based in science. It's not based in medicine. It can be really culty. It doesn't do it for me. Like I'm an atheist. I'm very science driven. Like AA never made sense to me. I went to a couple meetings with a friend and like so I know what it's about. And I do think the community element of accountability is cool and
Yeah,
interesting. And like I know it does work for some people, but that wasn't gonna work for me.
yeah.
Um I actually oh, I mean I've talked about this before, but it is a little out there. I did ayahuasca. So ayahuasca is a Amazonian hallucinogen that people that I basically was reading about for years. They're like, it cured my alcoholism. It cured my alcoholism. And so I went to Amsterdam and I did it, and it's fucked up. I don't know if I can swear on this podcast, but
Don't worry, I'll put explicit on the iPod
it
or iTunes thing. So, what is it called again?
it's called ayahuasca, and it's like a tea, and you drink it, and then you trip balls for like 4 to 6 hours. But
Oh wow.
I had never tripped before. I've never done any other hallucinogen. Like I'm not a hippy dippy hallucinogenic. Like I mean, although maybe there's some wisdom in all that stuff, but basically it did it like legitimately cured me. It's crazy. Like it worked. I basically like I had this super transformative experience, and I can drink, and I do drink, and I enjoy drinking, but I can stop,
That's
and
great.
I don't drink every day, and like basically I just reset something in my brain that couldn't stop before, but now I can. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Yeah, like it's
Now,
nuts,
now
but
this ayahuasca.
ayahuasca, yeah.
Ayahuasca. Did you have to do it just once, or was it something that you had to do like a whole week of it, or
No,
something like that?
I did it 2 nights. 2 nights.
Is it a pill? Oh, it's a tea.
No,
Sorry.
it's a tea. It's a tea.
Okay.
No, it's horrible. It makes you like throw up and like and it doesn't
This
feel
sounds
good.
fun.
It's not fun.
I
It is
know.
not fun at all. It is horrible, but
I know.
it really worked. I mean, it was crazy. I had read about it, it took me a long time to decide to actually do it, and I was pretty desperate at that point.
Hmm.
Um,
I wonder
but
if
yeah,
it's like the anti-abuse. I was a pharmacist in my prior life, and this is drug that you take. Like if you're an alcoholic, like it basically turns you off by making you throw up, and it
yeah,
was called anti-abuse. And I wonder
that's
if that's
interesting.
basically that crushed into a tea. Where like,
No, it's I mean, what it basically you do it, and I don't the thing is, of course, because these things are mostly illegal, we
hmm
don't know why they work.
yeah,
But it what one of the things that has been studied with this and like with mushrooms and stuff like that is that it can rewire the parts of your brain that have been like traumatized. So
Uh,
it, and and all people with drinking problems are doing it because they have other problems. Like for me, it's anxiety. Like I have intense anxiety and I just didn't have the tools to deal with it. And this really, I don't know why it specifically helps people with addiction,
mhm.
ayahuasca particularly, but it does. And it's not something you have to do again either, like it's
Yeah.
like one time can literally, I mean, it's so insane, and it really is a wonderful thing, but it's problematic too. Like, it's it's an ancient plant medicine, and now like all the white people in Amsterdam want it, and
Mhm.
that makes it less available to the people that need it, in the Amazon, right?
Or like the
Um,
prices have just jacked back, just like everything when
yeah, no,
people
it's
want it.
definitely not without controversy for sure. So
Mm.
I do acknowledge that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I never heard. See, I learned something
Yeah.
new
Oh
today.
my God, you're gonna go down a Google rabbit hole.
No, I'm not that curious. No.
No.
Now, now let's get back to the wine and
Yeah.
the wine.
So
You're going to
you can
scratch.
cut that whole part if you want to, but it is
No, I
interesting.
would. No, I would. It stays on because it's people want to know about this stuff, and I think
Yeah.
the listeners are old enough to realize that they have their choices, and this is
Yeah.
what works for one person doesn't work for the other person, and so they can make their own what is the word? They can analyze this and do whatever they want.
Uh,
Now, your online wine school that you're hoping to start, is
yes.
it something that's going to be virtual? Is it going to, oh, sorry. I'm like, of course, online, duh. Okay. Now, the wine school, is it something that's going to be one one class? Is it a series of classes or?
So it's interesting. It is going to evolve. So I'm actually, I mean, I'm making it right now, and I'm opening it. It will go live on the 18th of June, so very soon. And it stemmed from doing virtual wine tastings during the quarantine. So basically, like first week of quarantine, I started doing free virtual wine tastings just to be, just to have some solidarity with like other tour operators. Actually, was where it sort of started. And then it got mentioned in the New York Times, which was insane and
Wow,
like totally blew up. And
great.
so I was doing that, and I realized that it really didn't matter that everyone had different wine because that was a limiting belief that I had had before, that I couldn't do online education because I couldn't get everyone the same wine. And doing these virtual tastings, that were kind of started off just like, oh, we'll see how this works. It's free, right? Doesn't matter if it's not great. Like I'll just stop doing it. But they worked really well, and it didn't matter at all. So that planted the seeds because the wine market is really complicated, and what you can
Yeah,
get in Spain and what I can get here and what someone can get in California and what someone can get in Texas and what someone can get in Australia are different, I cannot recommend
yeah,
specific brands. And I don't like doing that anyway because it's sort of against my wine philosophy. Like I'm not here to like be a wine influencer on Instagram hawking, supermarket garbage. Like I'm not doing that.
yeah.
No offense to those people. But so my course is 6 modules. It is recorded videos and printable download
Okay.
sheets, and it's about how to taste wine, wine service and storage, the grapes, major regions, and then winemaking technique and the wine market. But it's going to be very digestible. So I don't know exactly how many hours it will take you to do it,
Okay.
but it won't be that much. It's not going to be, I'm not trying to tell you everything.
Hmm.
It's funny. It's called Everything You Need to Know About Wine. So it's not everything there is to know.
Yes.
It's everything you
You need
need
to
to
know.
know. It's what's important to get over the hump
Yeah.
of anxiety. I want my clients and my students who buy this course to when they're done to feel confident and to not be scared anymore when they see something unfamiliar. I want the anxiety to turn to curiosity. That's my number one goal.
That's great. That sounds
And so, yeah, right? And it's like, and nobody else is really doing anything geared towards the market like that. So I think there's actually a lot of room for me. I'm really
yes.
excited about it. I think it's going to be really great. And I really hope it helps people.
Yeah, I hope so too. Now,
Yeah.
you mentioned virtual tasting, and I've seen it. And I know, like, when this whole lockdown started, a lot of my blogger friends went into virtual wine tasting. And I haven't really like read up on it, or but I can't imagine how it works. Can you tell us how that works? What is virtual wine tasting? I mean,
Well,
do we?
the way I do it, this is the thing, is that there's a lot of the time it's like a two people and then you
Hmm.
watch them drinking. So I think that's boring, honestly. I'm not
It sounds boring.
interested. Yeah, I'm not interested in watching other people drink. Like I don't care. Um, and I don't. Yeah, that's what most of virtual tastings are. And
Hmm.
it can be interesting if it's a winemaker and they're talking about their wine. Like that's cool. But my tastings are a Zoom session, and everybody has their own wine. You send me a picture of your wine before, and I find it, and so I know what you have, and then I
Okay.
teach you how to analyze wine. Like that's the thing. It's about tasting. It's like how to do a tasting note, how to talk about it. Here's this is how we describe it, and then at the end we look at everyone's vineyards on Google Earth. I do a screen share. That's really fun. And then we just talk about, then it's questions and people ask me what all the things they always wanted to know and never asked. I'm not doing the free ones anymore, but I do these paid now, a
Mhm.
couple times a week. It's not really like a sustainable business, but they're really fun. So
Yeah.
I do those for like families, that are in different places, or people will, get their colleagues together. I've done some work ones too.
Oh,
So
that's great.
yeah.
That's great. I was just wondering, like, how do you coordinate that? Do you have to like send everybody the same wine and
No, it
then
doesn't
everybody?
matter. It doesn't matter at all, They all have their own
Ah,
wine and it doesn't matter. I mean, the thing is I know about all the wines, so like
mhm,
I can talk about them without having them. And if there is a wine I'm unfamiliar with, I Google it and I'm prepared, and like most of them are not, they're mostly pretty normal, and I'm teaching people how to describe it, so then they describe it back to me. It's fun. It works.
mm,
Yeah.
good. Now, since I have you on here, I'm going to ask you my question about
Uh-huh.
wine. Okay, I don't drink a lot of wine per se, but I do tend to like the sweeter wine. Like, what would you recommend for what kind of wine would you recommend for me? It doesn't have to be like, Prosecco or something. I want something a little bit sweet that I could have with like a white wine or a red wine that's kind of sweet. That's my thing. I really don't care about alcoholic content and none of that. I just want it sweet enough.
So, sweetness is actually a really big one because it's a big subject. Because a lot of the time people talk about sweetness, but they're not talking about sweetness. So, when you say sweet, do you mean sugary? Like actually
Yes.
sugary? Okay, so that is what sweet, yeah.
Sugary.
Because a lot of the times people say sweet, but they really mean fruity.
No,
You mean
no.
sweet, sweet. Good. Okay, so
Sugar.
reds are a little tougher. Lambrusco from Italy can have a little sugar in
Oh, I
it.
love that.
Lambrusco.
I
Moscato
do love that.
d'Asti, that's a white, bubbles as well. Very light, little sweet. It tastes like elderflower juice. It's delicious. And
Mm-hmm.
that's very
Yes,
light
it
alcohol
is.
too. Then German Rieslings.
Ah, it's so funny. I haven't had a Riesling since I left the US. It's true.
Ugh, German Riesling. So some of it is dry. You would want it to probably say Cabinet on it with a K.
Okay.
But the German Rieslings are so good. They taste like apple juice.
Mm.
You could get a demi-sec Vouvray from France. Spain
Say that
doesn't have
again.
a lot. Vouvray,
Let me see.
but again, those can be dry. So you want to see demi-sec
Mm-hmm. Okay.
is what it would say. But talk to your local wine shop, right? That's the person who knows.
Okay.
Spain has dessert wine, but that is
Yeah.
different. You don't really, and you're not going to drink a Pedro Jimenez
Yeah.
sherry. That
We
stuff is pretty
use it
intense.
to cook, but no, we don't drink
Uh,
it.
oh, I love sherry, but the good sherry is dry. Well, no, okay, that's not true. So the good sherry is not sweetened. There is dessert wine made in sherry from Pedro Jimenez grape that's super intense,
Yes.
but the rest of like normal sherry is dry. So the sweetened sherry, that stuff is not. It's like weird. I don't even. That's like not real
Yeah,
sherry.
I think well, I know like we used to live in Sevilla and most of the dishes, the Andalusian dishes are made with Pedro
Yeah,
Jimenez and it's really sweet.
it's
And I can't
it's
imagine
super sweet.
having to drink that. No, I like it in my food, but
I
not
mean,
really.
it's good dessert wine.
Yeah.
It's good with chocolate, like, but dessert wine, you have it with dessert
Yeah.
and you have a little bit of it. You don't have a lot of it. You don't need it.
Yeah.
Port is sweet
Oh,
too, but
yes.
that's dessert wine as well and very strong.
Oh,
So you
yeah.
might not love that.
Oh, no, no, I
You
love
can
it.
get. Oh, you do?
Oh, yeah. I went to the Douro
Um,
and made sure to go
oh,
port wine tasting, you know?
I would love to go
But
there. It's supposed to be so
it
beautiful.
is. It is. We had such a
Um,
blast.
you could do Pinot Gris from France, can be off dry, or Pinot Gris from Oregon or New Zealand. That tends to be a little bit sweet, but yeah, I think honestly, it's about asking your wine shop. You have your local wine shop. They're the ones who know.
Yeah. Okay.
They know what they have.
I'll
Yeah.
definitely try. Thank you for the recommendations.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else that you would like to have the audience know? Like if anybody's dreaming of becoming a wine connoisseur and wants to move to France, what advice would you give for somebody to somebody wanting to follow in your footsteps, so to speak?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. It's hard moving across the world. If you want to get into wine, you have to commit to doing a little bit of learning. Um, and you have to taste a lot. You have to spit if you actually want to learn because you can't learn and be drunk at the same time.
True.
So spitting is really important when you're actually doing like educational tastings. You have to taste a lot. You have to you have to try a lot of different wine. You have to do some reading. It's not rocket science, but it is a big world, and so I know it feels really overwhelming at first. That's really what I'm trying to kind of combat is the overwhelm.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make it pretty digestible. So I'm really excited about my course, but and it has a big tasting element too, which is interesting. So we'll see. I don't know. I think my biggest bit of advice for people is to support your local wine shop.
Good.
Those people, that's where they know their wines. They're going to have wines from small producers, which are going to be better. It's just going to be all around a better experience to support your local wine shop. And you can be honest with them about what you like, about your budget, and then they'll help you.
Ah, that's a good point. It's true because, you can ask for a recommendation, and if you don't tell them how much you're willing to spend or how
Yeah.
much you have to spend, you could end up with a
Yeah.
very big surprise, right? Because,
Well, you always say that's too expensive. What else do you have? But I think it's better to just be upfront about it.
yeah,
I'm not going to spend more than this. I like this. What do you have
what
in
do you
mind?
have in mind?
And to be open minded.
That's great.
It's a big world.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful advice. Well, thank you so much for coming on this show, Caroline. Now, your website again and the YouTube is Wine
Wine Dine
Die
Caroline.
Caroline. Wine Die Caroline. Thanks a
Yep.
lot. Everybody listening, make sure you check out her YouTube
Yeah.
website. She has a lot of short videos, so you don't have to be
Exactly.
stuck, because people are like, oh my God, it's half an hour. But her videos are like 4 minutes, very digestible little tidbits. So it's quite easy to comprehend and to love. So
Yeah.
check it out, Wine Dine Caroline. Again, Caroline, thank you so much
Yeah.
for being on the show. It's been really fun talking to you, and for the recommendations on the wine. So everybody, check out Become a Wine Connoisseur, and we'll see you on the next show. Thank you.
It's been
Bye.
great. Thank you.